Looking for a new pair of cowboy boots? Check out Tecovas. Tecovas is a Western wear company, and they're opening a store at the King of Prussia Mall this month. Tecovas boots are handmade and known for being stylish and comfortable. Some of these cowboy boots remind me of what my grandpa Willie would wear when he rode his horse and taught inner city kids all about cowboy life. The Tecovas grand opening party will be Friday, June 28th through Sunday the 30th. Grab a drink and get fitted by a pro. Find out more and see what catches your eye at tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com. See y'all there. Today on CityCast Philly. It's Friday, everyone, which means we're rounding up the biggest news stories around Philly. We're talking about Kensington and how the city may have improperly used federal opioid settlement money. Plus, more details on the extended day pilot program that rolls out this fall. It's Friday, June 28th. I'm Trinity Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week is Larry Platt, co-founder at the Philadelphia Citizen. Welcome to CityCast Philly.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And Sammy Kayola, special projects reporter at Kensington Voice. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get into some of the top stories in Philly, let's talk about something that recently happened in Sinking Spring, Berks County. According to 6ABC, a video shows a FedEx delivery driver simply doing his job. He gets out the truck, delivers a package, and then walks away like a normal delivery. But within seconds, two men race up to the front of this house and then grab the box. One of the suspects grabs the package, and it looks like he's possibly holding a knife, while the other grabs a flower pot, and he's also trying to grab at the box. So then they chase each other back to their cars and then drive away. So the family that lives in the property, they were actually inside the home while all of this went down. And all of this footage was captured on a doorbell camera. So you might be asking yourself, well, how did these two guys know about this package? Well, according to the report, the resident is wondering the same thing and said there's something fishy happening. And it's reported that the package was a delivery from AT&T. So my question for y'all is, has this ever happened to you? Have you ever had your package stolen by those porch pirates?
I don't buy a lot of things on the internet because, this is a worry I thought it was mostly for people who live in cities, but I guess it's for people everywhere. I genuinely just prefer to go buy things at a store and bring them back to my house. Now that it's safer to do that, then I just kind of know where my stuff is. I don't have to worry about the tracking status, and I know, some people can't get out or don't want to get out and ordering online works for them. But so I feel like I haven't experienced this because I am already too afraid of it to even try. But this video, honestly, it reminded me of that scene in the Hunger Games where all of the contestants have to bolt to the place where all the resources are and then they all slaughter each other. What is the world that we are living in, honestly?
Well, I don't know how you don't do online shopping. My consumer behavior is oh, I think of it, I'm going to buy it. Larry, what about for you?
No, it hasn't happened to me, and I do a lot of online shopping, and my wife does a ton of online shopping. I have to tell you, I thought this was a contrived internet scene. It didn't ring true to me. When you watch it, the FedEx driver is right there. He doesn't do anything. He just walks away nonchalantly. It just seems like something designed for the internet to go viral and to play on people's fears. When you tune into the news or anything on the internet, you think the world is this horribly unsafe place. And I just thought, I watched it and I thought, this is bullshit.
No, I could see that too. Yeah, because the FedEx driver also just he was too calm. He was too calm. So police are looking for the suspects. And, they say that the doorbell camera helped, but there's not much protection from taking your packages. So let's get into more news. A Pennsylvania trust known as Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust voted last week that the city improperly used $7.5 million for projects that are supposed to improve the quality of life in Kensington. Sammy, that's according to reporting you and Emily Rizzo did at Kensington Voice. So, Sammy, these are funds that were given to Pennsylvania because of a federal lawsuit against opioid manufacturers and distributors, right?
Yeah, I just want to call out that Emily Rizzo co-reported and co-wrote this story with me, and she's been doing some great work in Kensington.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of a much larger allocation. Philadelphia is going to be getting about $200 million over the next 18 years, and it sort of comes out in these $20 million pots. So the $7.5 million was part of an allocation that was given to Philly actually under Mayor Kenny.
Okay, so how were the funds spent so far?
Yeah, so these funds were given basically to two Kensington organizations. That's Impact Services and the New Kensington Community Development Corporation. And they laid out a large and detailed plan that basically puts the money toward four categories. So that's eviction and foreclosure prevention, home repairs, and then improvements to schools and parks. And they picked 5 schools and 6 parks. So all of this money is in Kensington. It's being directed by Kensington organizations. And, you might put it under the umbrella of just community improvement. There's something we call the social determinants of health. These are things that affect people's physical and mental well-being. And so it's sort of a prevention thing. The argument is that in the long run, the kids growing up in this neighborhood may experience less trauma, may be less likely to use opioids. The people that see opioid use and misuse every day on the streets, they're experiencing some trauma just by witnessing it, right? So how do we help people recover or heal from that? And also just economic instability is a driver of drug sales too. So that was, I think, where this came from. The PA Trust deemed it non-compliant with something called Exhibit E, which lays out what you can and cannot do with this funding.
Right. But in your story, what I found fascinating is that the trust says that opioid settlement funding is not intended to support community development. So where is the money supposed to go or be used for?
Yeah, it's, there's like a lot of do's and don'ts on there. It's going to be hard to detail all of them. But a lot of it is targeted for treatment. And, there's been debate about harm reduction services like safe needle exchanges. Some counties have been approved for that. Some counties have wanted to use it for law enforcement reasons. They've been denied. So it's not that Philly's the only place that has faced a non-compliance vote. Other counties also got denied. But I think Kensington, specifically the $7.5 million, because this is a neighborhood that is the epicenter of our opioid crisis in Philadelphia, that to see this money questioned is a hard hit for the neighborhood. And I want to be clear, they're not going to claw this money back. So this money has already been allocated. It's already in use. And KCDC and Impact have already been serving families and residents with this money. It's just going to affect future spending. So, and the trust could also decide to reduce the amount of money that Philadelphia will get.
It seems pretty clear to me on the face that that this allocation of funds is in explicit contradiction to what the agreement says, which is that funds should be spent equitably across the county in a way that most effectively abates the effects of the opioid misuse and addiction. And it leaves up to the discretion of the trust and experts, that they so-called academic researchers, to determine what fits into that. And so it's a tough stretch to put like home repairs into things that most effectively abates the effects of opioid misuse and addiction at a time of crisis, right? So it seems clear on its face, as the chairman of the trust said, like we're not opposed to these. In fact, we're in favor of these activities that the money's going to. It's just not in compliance with the explicit details. And I should say that Jim Kenney's former managing director, who is still in Mayor Parker's government, so Tumar Alexander was part of this, right? So it's not like the city didn't know that what it was doing and that it was stretching the terms of the trust. And I think there's a political peril here, because I worry that when we do this kind of thing, the city doesn't set itself up well for collaboration with the rest of the state. We need the state. We need, if we want to overcome exemption laws and so forth, and whether it's justified or not, this fuels the perception, especially in the western part of the state, that you can't trust Philly.
More news happening in Philly after the break.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. Or, as I can say now, thanks to a few weeks with Babbel, hola, soy David Plotz, el jefe de CityCast. What if in 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help me start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year. I got started with Babbel because I realized that my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker, and my son, who's in AP Spanish, were conspiring against me, or I thought they were conspiring against me in Spanish. I wanted to know what they were talking about. And now, thanks to literally just a few weeks of Babbel, I'm starting to be able to eavesdrop. It is rare that something so fun and simple, and Babbel is super fun and very simple, is also so useful. So here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
How do both of you feel the Parker administration is doing in terms of how they're dealing with Kensington overall?
I think great in this sense. We finally have a mayor who wants to own the problem. And political will is what something this massive requires. So we know that the Kenney administration sort of failed at this, right? I think it's a great sign that the mayor is willing to spend political capital on it. Now, so far the jury's out, because clearly, my mentor, the late social innovator Jeremy Nowak, used to say that policy is implementation, and out of the gate, the implementation of this has been very spotty. Not having social workers there hours after the first encampment intervention was just bad implementation. And so that's going to be an ongoing story. But this is a long-term issue that we're going to have to monitor closely.
Mm-hmm. Sammy, have you talked with residents and business owners? Like, how do they feel about all of the things that are happening in the neighborhood? It's been just like a hyper focus so far in the Parker administration this year.
Yeah, so I'm up in Kensington, 2, maybe 3 times a week. And, I try to kind of walk the stretch of Kensington Avenue from Allegheny, sometimes all the way to Somerset, go sort of toward the library. And I also try to go on the side streets. And, there are a lot of residents who are happy that there is a larger police presence. And, those 75 new police academy graduates, they are out on the ground. They're on bikes or on foot. They're kind of working in pairs. They're in larger groups with supervising officers. They don't seem to be doing a lot. I haven't witnessed a lot of stops. I haven't witnessed a lot of arrests. And so there definitely are neighbors who say that they're grateful for that. And, the K&A area is a lot emptier. There are still police barricades on those sidewalks, so people are not camped there. But everyone has sort of moved down towards Somerset. The problem has not gone away. It's just been shuffled around. And so I think you have people who, desperately want their children to be able to walk safely outside. They want their businesses to thrive, and they want folks who are unhoused and using drugs in Kensington to go somewhere else. The problem remains that we don't really have that somewhere else. And I still don't see in the 5-phase plan, where are we, creating capacity to treat people. And not only that people need to go to rehab, they have these wounds from xylazine or tranq that are really horrific on the arms and legs. They get infected, and sometimes it's a barrier to entry for rehab. You can't get, even if you want to go to 30-day, you can't until you get your wounds treated. And maybe you have to go to the hospital. Maybe you don't want to go to the hospital, right? And then even after treatment, a lot of people say you need to house somebody immediately and in a place where they have support, recovery housing, transitional housing. If not, they may just go back to living unhoused and go back to opioid misuse.
So it's like a cycle, yeah.
Right. So it's a whole continuum. It's a whole cycle. And, if we see a spike in arrests, which we haven't really seen yet. I mean, arrests for drug use are higher year to date than they were last year. But it doesn't feel like it's been a massive crackdown. And Jillian Bauer-Reese, my editor, and we just did a flow chart, actually, of what happens if you're arrested for drug use in Kensington. Where are you taken for booking? What does your arraignment look like? Which facility do you go to? And then we did a whole story about what does opioid treatment actually look like in the jail and the prison setting.
What did you find?
That the Philadelphia Department of Prisons is understaffed and more than at capacity. There's an independent court monitor on PDP who has recommended that the jail population be cut down significantly. And, there is opioid treatment in Philadelphia jails and prisons. You can be on Suboxone. You can get methadone. If you're on methadone, you can continue your methadone. You can get on a new medication-assisted treatment prescription. So that is good. We're one of the only systems in the state that does that. But the staffing is such that it's hard to administer that care in a timely way. So it's a whole bucket of problems that I think just putting police on the street, it's missing those problems.
I would say that you've laid out perfectly the challenges that are so numerous as to feel overwhelming. I'm one of those who don't want to see users arrested for the reasons that you've talked about, Sammy. I think that's where a treatment plan comes in. I'm with, what's her name? Sonia Brigham, the activist.
Sonia.
Bingham. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bingham. You have to make this neighborhood inhabitable for taxpayers, for kids to walk to school and not step over needles.
And see, that's why then I understand why the money was used to kind of do that rehabbing and kind of cleaning up that community development, but that money is not supposed to be used for that. It's a catch-22, I feel like.
Well, that money's not, but the city has a $6.4 billion operating budget. When in Michael Nutter's last year, the city had a $3.8 billion operating budget. So the question isn't money. I come back to the question is political will. Rather than trying to subvert the agreement with this board, make the political decision that you're going to invest in this underinvested community.
I do want to call out that, the funding, the $7.5 million that was just deemed non-compliant, it has been allocated for schools, and schools are really hurting in Kensington. It's going to parks. And so, to Larry's point, this funding, I think, would go a long way going to parks and to schools, because this does help create safe places where children can be, which is a lot of what residents are calling for. And, we've seen some of the parks get improvements. McPherson has been cleaned up quite a bit. Scanlon now has a curling rink. It has a colorful sort of banner on it. Looks like a place for kids to be. And, there was an op-ed in the Inquirer from a Kensington teen named Brooke Fulton, where she really laments, I can't ride my bike around my neighborhood. I get in a car and drive a little ways and I ride it in a different neighborhood. And so, for children to not be able to play where they live, it's heartbreaking for everybody. You may have heard of the Play Streets program. That's been vital for kids. There's an organization called Fab Youth Philly that sort of enhances that program. But then, a few summers ago, the city said they were going to close certain streets. They were going to say certain streets couldn't be play streets because they were too dangerous. And that really upset the neighbors. Block parties were denied permits because it was too dangerous, when really that kind of community cohesion, that is an antidote to violence and crime. And I think that's something that we have to keep building upon, is safer, healthier, more active communities that work together to create neighborhood safety. And, funding for parks and schools, I think, is part of that.
Shifting gears, this week I read in both Metro Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Inquirer that 20 district schools will be testing out the year-round school pilot program this upcoming school year. If you remember, this was something Mayor Sherelle Parker campaigned on before becoming mayor. Do you remember her campaign on this?
Yeah. She talked very vaguely about year-round schooling, which is happening in other cities and states. This is not really that. This is more like modeled on the community school model that we already have some examples of. But it's a nod towards what she talked about in the campaign.
You're right, Larry. So on Thursday, Mayor Parker actually cleared these reports and announced that along with the 20 district schools, 5 charter schools would be included. So that's a total of 25 schools would be a part of this pilot, which is an extended day, extended year program in the fall. So schools would be open for before and after school programming from 7:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. And Parker said this is not mandated for families and educators. So, Larry, what are your thoughts on this school model?
Well, I think, look, I'm in favor of anything that addresses the crisis of education in Philadelphia. We currently have 28% of third graders reading at grade level. And we should all reject the Philly shrug over that, right? Because if you're a parent, your kid is only in third grade once. And we know that if you're not reading at grade level by fourth grade, your access to opportunity down the road is severely limited. So this is sort of modeled after the community schools movement, which Mayor Kenny and Darrell Clark, then council president, sort of ushered in 2015, 2016. And the research on it is really interesting. It shows that students at community schools attendance is way up, which is is really cool. Test scores not so much, but graduation tends to be higher. So it's mixed. What I like about it is it holistically engages the community. It makes the school a gathering place for parents to come and take advantage of resources and foster a sense of community. The jury is out on whether it's going to help those third graders I talked about get to grade level, which I think should be our absolute North Star.
What do you think some challenges or like pushback that you think might kind of happen with this plan?
Well, already the teachers union was not given a heads up that this was going to be made public. So this will all be subject to negotiation down the road. And that might get a little dicey if passed as prologue in Philadelphia.
And looking at the bigger picture here, when it comes to education, what other changes would you like to see in Philly schools?
I want to see accountability. We say we care about kids, but the only time a superintendent is fired is when there's a sex scandal or they've embezzled funds. So I think from the get-go, the idea of like, we're not going to compromise on educational attainment. And we have this weird situation where we champion the fact that high school graduation rate is up to 75%. That's about 10% higher over the last, 8 years or so. But yet reading and math scores are way down and spending is up. Something is not right here. And we need accountability to reconcile all that and have a plan. And that's why I think that all things should be on the table.
I know I'm not a parent. I don't know, what is going to help a kid feel focused and supported in school. But I think we do need to find a way to hear from them on this. The thing that it makes me curious about year-round school, whatever format it takes, is can this be an avenue for children to find mentorship? Can this be a place where kids who don't have access to a safe and supportive adult in the home, where they can feel that someone cares about them, someone is invested in their future? Because that, I think, is something that we sorely need, specifically in Philly neighborhoods that experience high levels of violence. And so, that's just one question. It's what are we providing during these hours? Is it not only a quality learning environment, but is it something that is going to help the entirety of a child achieve the future that they want?
Before I let you go, anyone doing anything fun this weekend? Have any good recommendations?
Yeah, I'm actually doing something really fun. In addition to being a journalist, I'm a local musical theater performer.
Oh, okay.
It's my secret life. And I have 2 shows this weekend at the Adrian Theater in Rittenhouse Square. And it's a theater company called SideQuest Theater. So that's where you can find tickets at SideQuest Theater. It's an improvised musical comedy show. So, Trinae, you as an audience member, you would write down a fake musical. You'd be like, Podcasts the Musical. And then my troupe, we're going to sing a song from Podcasts the Musical. So it's really fun. It's tonight at 8 p.m. at the Adrian and also this Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Adrian.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. Speaking of comedy, tonight I'm actually going to head over to 2 locals in University City and check out a free comedy show there.
You both make me feel like such a loser because the older I get, the more baseball means to me. Just because it's,
I like baseball too.
Well, the reason it appeals to me at this point in my life.
Down.
Well, there's that, and it can be background noise.
Right.
But the other thing is that it's really a game about failure, right? The best in the game, like Bryce Harper, fails 70% of the time, and so it's this great prescription for like resilience and persistence as you're in your sunset years, not to bring you both down. So all I do is read, write, and watch the Phillies. So no life.
Well, you know what I hate about watching a baseball game is it gets so slow sometimes, and then I'll look away, but that's when something exciting happens, and I'm like, damn it, I missed it. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me. That was Larry Platt, co-founder of the Philadelphia Citizen, and Sammy Kayola, special projects reporter at Kensington Voice. Thanks so much for being on CityCast Philly.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It's fun.
It's time for the tip of the week, where we share a life hack for living in Philly. If you're heading to a state park this weekend, check out the convenient sunscreen stations. Pennsylvania expanded its free sunscreen program this season to 52 of its 124 state parks, including some that are actually within a 2-hour drive from Philly, like Neshaminy, Ridley Creek, and Knoxamixon. The battery-powered dispensers are mounted on poles, and they supply SPF 30 sunscreen. You can read more about this free sunscreen program in the Hey Philly newsletter's Urban Almanac. If you have a tip of the week, we'd love to hear from you too. Call or text us at 215-259-8170. That's all for this week on CityCast Philly. It wasn't a bad week, was it? Our producers are Abby Fritz and Lizzie Goldsmith. Our Hey Philly newsletter editors are Asha Prahar and Natalia Aldana. And our host is me, Trinae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from All the Kimonos and James Weldon. If you enjoyed this week of episodes, tell your mechanic. Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, y'all, and be safe. Bye.